What up with it, man? We at that next premiere. This is the OKC bombing cover-up, part 2.
Look at the damage. There was damage all the way over on Oklahoma and 6th. Oklahoma Public Company building had the doors blown out, but these cars started pulling up, and they were all federal agencies. You could tell that they were getting their jackets out, said FBI and ATF and everything. And I think they were wiring in a command center there because there was phone people and cable companies. But they act like they were a drill, like no big deal, just kind of a joking around and all this stuff. And I made a comment to Tony. I said, I can't believe they're here and act like nothing's even happened, like it's just another drill. And I mean, they act like it was no big deal.
Have people been threatened and told not to talk about what they saw or heard on the day of the bombing?
The civilians have been fairly easy about coming forward and saying, yes, I did see this, and yes, I did see that. The people on the bomb squad, the fire department, the police department, and so forth, when I do get them to talk to me at all, what they simply say is this: I saw a lot that day. I wish I hadn't. I can't talk about it. I have family. I have a job. I've asked them, have you read my articles? And in those cases where they have said yes. And I said, am I wrong? And each and every time they said,
well, obviously the videotapes. The videotapes recorded everything that happened. There were dozens, hundreds. In fact, we interview the man who duplicated the tape.
Now that movie, A Noble Lie, is very good. If you see it somewhere, please get it.
On order from the FBI. He wasn't allowed to view the footage. They would wheel it in on dollies. 2 armed agents would watch while he put the tapes in and duplicate them, and he was not allowed to watch them. Then those armed agents would wheel the tapes out at the end of the day and take them back to the office. This lasted 2 to 3 weeks of 8, 9-hour days of recording videotapes. Obviously, a lot or most of those tapes have nothing, but some of them have something, and some of them recorded what exactly happened in front of the Murrah building. Don is talking about the FBI taking down the tapes during the evacuations while people are bleeding to death inside. They're taking down the tapes, and now they claim the tapes don't exist or that they can't find them. They can't find the tapes, or that the ones that can find cannot be released due to national security. What is the threat to national security to find out exactly what happened at the Murrah building, despite the fact what it would cause is a case of national insecurity. And people knew from day one that the federal government knew there were more people involved and lied about it. The people would be outraged. They cannot allow that to get out.
Yeah, national security at this point should not be an excuse because, well, they supposedly killed Tim McVeigh. Terry Nichols is in jail. Those were the only 2 guys involved, according to the official story. So what would be the harm? That's usually the icing on the cake. They always come out with the tape later after the case is done. Here's all the tapes. Here's what they show. And there was even an investigation at one point. I remember watching an old news clip where they interviewed people who had saw tapes, and they were talking about John Doe number 2 that supposedly didn't exist after a 2-day manhunt.
Yes, several FBI offices were leaking information to the media that they had seen the tapes, that there were other people involved. But as the story became managed, that information was shut off, and we were never allowed to see the tapes. I mean, we almost every day have to watch airliners crashing into the Twin Towers. Almost every day have to see that. How come we can't see what happened in front of the Murrah building?
Right. Well, the same reason why you can't see what happened in front of the Pentagon, except for 2 frames.
Yeah.
Don, did you participate in the manhunt for John Doe number 2 that ended up being called off?
no, sir, other than I think what was confusing to me at first was when they first started putting out the descriptions, and particularly that first day, descriptions that they gave us and was broadcast to all law enforcement in it.
let's get into Terry Yakey. I mean, how good of friends were you with him? Were you guys talking about this stuff during the investigation?
Yes, sir. We were talking about it. We were not socially extremely close friends. Workmates, and supportive of one another very much so. To the point that I would tease Terry and he would tease back, especially after his picture came out on Newsweek, that he was my hero and appreciated what he had done. And but again, Terry had a little bit of a closed side, such as I did, that there were some things that you just were very cautious about talking to other police officers about. And
because you don't know who's on which side at that point.
Exactly.
I've had two police officers actually come up to me out of the blue because I was actually passing out some flyers on the Oklahoma City bombing at an event. They were working security there, and they were from a different jurisdiction. And they walked up to me. They saw what I was doing. They said, "Hey, you remember that Oklahoma City cop?" I was like, "Who?" And they said, "The one that was found in that field." I was like, "Yeah." And the police officers, "Yeah, I think they killed him." And I was like, "Well, yeah, I know." I mean, the message was sent to law enforcement and the first responders: keep your mouth shut, or we will kill you. That was the literal lesson.
Right. And what was the reaction around the office when that happened, when they found Terry Yakey and they said, "Oh, it's a suicide"?
There was a lot of disbelief. We were told, even by our chaplain, that Terry was drunk and was high on drugs at the time of his death. That didn't fit Terry. And when the ME report finally was released, it showed no blood alcohol content, no drugs in the system.
But by that time, they'd already had the story out that he was drunk and high, and that had been playing around for weeks. And
yes, sir, and that it was related to marital trouble.
They slandered his character. The superiors within the police department slandered his character after he died. Before he died, he was a hero. He was a hero. He was 3 days away from receiving the Medal of Valor, the highest award the department can offer. And then after he dies, suddenly Terry's a scumbag.
right, makes you wonder. Jeez, and who knows what kind of evidence he had if he would have been able to bring it forward and what they got from him.
Well, when his car was found in El Reno, the patrolman reported that there were several boxes of documents in the back seat. When that car was processed for evidence, there was no mention of anything in that car, document-wise.
How convenient. Jeez. Well, Don, I want to give you the last word.
The latest on the investigation in this exclusive News Channel report.
Our new information comes directly from a source that has seen parts of those surveillance tapes. It also comes from reports now in the Los Angeles Times. But perhaps the biggest surprise is contained in the news channel's own information. Timothy McVeigh was not the last person to leave the Ryder truck. In fact, another man sat inside the cab of the truck after McVeigh got out. We believe that man is John Doe number 2, a man who, for all we know, is still on the loose, leaving open a vital question. Was it John Doe number 2 who actually set off the bomb, not Timothy McVeigh, as we've all been led to believe? News Channel 4 has for weeks been demanding copies of the surveillance tapes from the FBI. The federal government so far is dragging its feet. But many people in the investigation have seen the tapes, and now so has a source willing to describe to the news channel what the tapes show. The LA Times report shows there was a surveillance camera near the corner of 5th and Harvey and another near the corner of 5th and Robinson. Federal investigators recreated the time sequence leading up to the bombing by matching the video and still photos from the surveillance cameras. Since we can't show you the tape ourselves, we're reenacting what our source says he saw on those tapes. As witnesses told the news channel before, the tape showed the Ryder truck parked in front of the Murrah building where we now know the blast went off. As witnesses also told us, the tape showed 2 men sitting inside the Ryder truck. A man strongly resembling Timothy McVeigh gets out of the driver's side, steps down. He then appears to have dropped something on the step up into the truck. He bends down and appears to pick something up off the step. Then he turns and walks directly across 5th Street toward the Journal Record building. All this time, John Doe number 2 is still inside the Ryder truck's cab, sitting on the passenger side. Time passes. The surveillance tape is time-lapse photography. Without knowing exactly the time interval between shots, our source can't be sure how long John Doe number 2 sat in that cab. What was he doing all that time? Then the tape shows John Doe number 2 getting out of the passenger side of the Ryder truck. Again, the tape shows that a bombing witness accurately described what happened next to News Channel 4.
Standing in the building, and I looked out the window, and I seen a dealer's truck, and I seen a man get out of the dealer's truck.
The tape shows John Doe number 2 getting out, shutting the passenger side door. He steps toward the front of the truck and is momentarily out of the frame of the surveillance camera. But shortly, he appears back in frame, walking toward the rear of the truck, still on the sidewalk in front of the Murrah building. Again, he turns east toward the front of the truck, looking toward the street. John Doe number 2 then walks diagonally across 5th Street toward the east, as if heading toward the YMCA or the intersection of 5th and Robinson. He again leaves the frame of the camera. Another camera shooting from another angle clearly shows the actual explosion that destroyed the federal building and killed 169 people. So what does the mysterious John Doe number 2 look like in the tapes? The man who stayed inside the Ryder truck, possibly triggering the bomb? Well, his features are obscured by a baseball cap in the portion of tape seen by our source, the same kind of cap shown in the composite drawing first released of John Doe number 2. The cap was a sports cap, flame style. The man himself was taller than the man resembling McVeigh and much thicker in build. He appears to have a dark or olive complexion. Our source saw only a few minutes of tape. He didn't see all of the almost 20 minutes of surveillance tapes that reportedly were distributed to FBI agents around.
So you got to think about it. They had the Iranians. Well, they're Iranians already on the ground. They help them out back during the Oklahoma City bombing. So it ain't strange that they use them for 9/11.
The country to help in their investigation. But they do show enough to raise some crucial questions. Who actually set off the bomb? What was John Doe number?
As you got to think about it, this was done to pass the Patriot Act, but they didn't kill enough people. That's why 9/11 came around.
Number 2 doing in the cab of the truck after the McVeigh lookalike got out? And how did John Doe number 2 get away from the Murrah building?
My understanding is there was a video to this other pickup with John Doe number 2. Well, where's that video? Are we ever going to get to see it?
Do you realize what you've just seen, America? The government had multiple surveillance camera tapes. In fact, when it finally came out in court, when the federal government declared in 2001 that they wouldn't release the videotapes because of national security implications, that there were actually 12 surveillance camera tapes that had these different Islamic individuals, these Arabic men with McVeigh and others, as well as the BATF hiding out right down the street, preparing to pounce on the operation and declare themselves the heroes, the saviors, the victims. Think about it. Now in 2001 and right into 2002, the federal government claims national security and refuses to release 12-plus surveillance camera tapes. What are they hiding? And the feds never tried to use it in court. I mean, if they had McVeigh pulling up alone and bombing the building and it was just a truck bomb, why not use the actual surveillance camera tapes to do it? But they didn't do that. You have to ask yourselves why. What's on that tape? Well, after you've seen all this evidence, it's clear. Federal involvement. Ratcheting up the police state right here in America. Danny Coulson, the FBI's top counterterrorism agent, checked into an Oklahoma City hotel nearly 9 hours before a truck bomb nearly leveled the Alfred P. Murrah Federal Building. The Embassy Suites Hotel receipt of Danny Coulson, the director of the FBI's terrorist task force and founding commander of the Bureau's hostage rescue team, was dated.
Oh, my bad, y'all. We already seen this part. This was on part 1.
Was named Thomas McVeigh.
Governor Frank Keating's brother, Martin Keating, American lives, of American blood, of American tears, as an excuse to get the feds to be able to circle the wagons against the American people, to have a pretext, an excuse to expand their police state. They cover.
Alright, I think that's about it, man. Let me see.
$62 million is coming to Oklahoma soon to help anti-terrorism and disaster relief efforts.
Government crime certainly does pay, especially when it's government-sponsored terrorism against its own institutions. That's right, the BATF locally got tens of millions of dollars extra funding, but so did every other federal agency that tries to control the American people. $24 billion increase in anti-terrorism funds. And after September 11th, they've now tripled that. And of course, the BATF ensured that the building was completely demolished, so there couldn't be any evidence of their heinous acts. And that's right, ladies and gentlemen, they actually buried the building under guard at a private landfill with Wackenhut guards protecting it. From A to Z, federal fingerprints all over it, and doing everything they can to suppress the truth. For Bill Clinton, the servant of the New World Order, whose approval rating exploded after the attack, and his attack dog, the butcher of Waco, Reno. She was very happy to blame.
Alright, yeah, we did see this on part 1. Anyway, that's the end of the Oklahoma City bombing exposed or cover up. But we're looking at this right now because this right here was one of the things that started before 9/11, and 9/11 started it because they were successful in 9/11. With this one, they were successful with killing people, but they was not successful with killing as many people as they wanted to. Because if that second bomb and third bomb would have went off that they found in that building, it would have probably leveled the whole block. So then you probably would have had as many dead in 9/11 in Oklahoma if all them bombs would have went off. Well, it wasn't time for that to happen, right? That right there was a wake-up call for us, but we didn't wake up. Nobody woke up. We kind of did, but we didn't. We went back to sleep, and what they do, they pulled 9/11. So what we going to do now, folks? We're going to go back to sleep. Because they put a Democrat in there, half of y'all brothers going to go back to sleep. Don't do that. Because they do for another terrorist attack. Y'all should know that. They need some reason to bring you together and have you more scared than what you is already now. Because Cavassier, that's becoming old news now. People start not to be really worried about it like that. Even though the juice in numbers, people is not worried about it like that now. Right? So, they need to come with something new. And terrorist attacks always work for them to get you to act right. It's your boy D, man. And we ain't done with the information. But thank y'all for coming through for this premiere, man. And y'all have a good the rest of y'all's day. And remember, if you ain't getting knowledge, you ain't getting nothing. I do this.